I have already lost 4 pounds in 7 days. If you lose 4 pounds every week, you will lose a total of 16 pounds in 1 month. Hey guys, and welcome to the video. If you are new here, then welcome. My name is Sarah, and as I'm sure you can tell from the title, I have a pretty exciting topic to be talking about today. I have never talked about this on my channel before, as it is very new to my life personally. So over this past week, I've decided to officially kind of change my life around, changing the way that I'm eating food. And I don't really like to say the word diet because I feel like it has a pretty negative connotation, but I'm changing my diet, needless to say. So I have decided officially as of 1 week ago today that I'm going to be doing the ketogenic lifestyle. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, I am definitely going to go ahead and quickly explain it, but I will put a disclaimer. I am not like a nutritionist. I didn't go to school for anything like this. I literally did all of my research on the internet, and like, I'm not an expert, so just so you know. To quickly start off with explaining it, a ketogenic diet is basically a low carb and high fat diet. So there's actually a number of reasons why some people would choose to kind of follow a ketogenic lifestyle, and some of them include weight loss, some of them include certain health conditions. I know there's been a bunch of studies that have talked about it helping decrease risk factors for things like epilepsy, Alzheimer's, or diabetes, and amongst other different health conditions. But needless to say, there is a number of reasons as to why someone would choose to follow this lifestyle. Now, I am gonna be like reading some notes from my phone because this is honestly just a little bit complicated for me to just say off the top of my head. So basically on this diet, your body enters a metabolic state called ketosis, and during this state, your body is using ketones for energy instead of glucose. So ketones are derived from fat and are a better source of energy than glucose, which is derived from carbs. To actually get your body into ketosis, the actual state of it can take up to 3 days to a week, and it really just depends on you, but basically you just kind of have to follow the diet and eventually your body will fall into ketosis. So that's pretty much the gist of what this is. If you guys are interested in more details on like specifically what it is, you could definitely go in and research that. Unfortunately, I really don't feel comfortable kind of going into all these scientific and like nutritional details about the diet specifically, why it works, things like that, just because I really honestly, you guys, I don't want to sound super dumb, which I know I already do. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the food that I've been eating and the food that I've been enjoying on this diet. So I'm going to talk to you guys about kind of like what I was doing for my eating lifestyle beforehand, and just so you guys have an idea of the things that I had to change to get to the point where I am now. So basically, to be quite honest, you guys, carbs were my life. Absolutely, like all the time, every day, eating so many carbs. And I would say that I was getting the majority of my carbs from bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, all of those lovely things. So I can tell you for a fact that I definitely had at least one of those things in every single meal that I had every single day, which is 3 meals a day, which ends up being a whole lot of carbs. Bread is my homie, or at least it used to be my best friend, and I definitely ate probably more like bread and pasta in general than anyone probably should, but that's kind of how I was eating. I was eating a lot of super sugary, like really bad for you snacks and things like that, like just like sitting in front of the TV and eating like a bunch of chips and drinking soda, and it was just kind of like not really the lifestyle that I guess ideally I wanted for myself. So this kind of was like a process for me to change from that lifestyle to what I'm doing now, because basically on the keto diet you can't really have bread like at all, or pasta or rice or potatoes. I wouldn't say that I was eating unhealthily all the time, but I would definitely say that I wasn't eating super healthy on the majority of the time that I was eating. So something that I was also doing before was eating a lot of fruit. Now that doesn't sound like to me, or really to anyone that I've spoken to, an unhealthy way of eating. But basically when you're doing the keto diet, there is a bunch of fruits that they really don't recommend that you eat. And if you are eating them, to eat them in very small portions. And that's really just because of the levels of sugar in it being kind of converted into carbs, which end up being, honestly, I was surprised certain fruits have like a crap ton of carbs in them. And since when you're doing the keto diet, you want to be eating like about 20 net carbs per day. So for those of you who are curious, net carbs are basically just when you take the total amount of carbs from something and subtract the total amount of fiber in something, and then there you get your net carbs. So if you have something that's like 15 grams of carbs, but it has 5 grams of fiber, then it's 10 grams of net carbs. So in total, I think from what I understand, you could eat like a total of 50 carbs per day, but it ends up converting to hopefully around 20 grams of net carbs. So needless to say, some of the biggest changes in this lifestyle for me was to basically get rid of all of bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, certain fruits, and basically any and every snack ever that was like bad for you, like chips and like candy and stuff like that. So before I get into the actual recipes that I'm going to be showing you guys today, I did want to talk about basically how I felt like physically and emotionally during the first week of changing my diet into the keto diet. So basically the first day that I decided to kind of adjust things, I went in like full force. I didn't have like, oh, a little bread here and a little snack there. No, I went straight in and I followed all of the rules that I was supposed to. There was one thing that I will definitely mention that I did not follow, and something that, to be honest, I really don't plan on following. And I do think that everyone, like, no matter who you are, is going to have kind of like their vice. Mine personally is tea, and something that I didn't really notice, because when you do your research on this diet, it does say that you can drink tea, and that's totally cool. But it does also mention that if you're drinking tea that has dried up fruits or things with a lot of sugar in them, then those ones in particular are not recommended to you. Now, if you can go and take a look in my tea cabinet, you'll notice a lot of the teas that I have a lot of dried fruits in them, and I have a lot of sugar in them. So a lot of the teas that I buy specifically are from David's Tea, and those have like just a whole bunch of stuff in them. There is obviously a whole lot of options for you that are totally acceptable in this diet, but to be honest, those are probably not going to be the teas that I personally enjoy drinking. So that is the one thing that I have decided to kind of keep in my diet, and I really don't think it's going to affect it too much. I know I've just watched a bunch of videos of people that have also been doing this diet, and they all have their vices, so I think it's cool. I also do want to mention that I was including intermittent fasting into this diet, so I know a lot of people do it to a pretty extreme kind of ratio, but I'm just doing the 16:8 ratio. So for 16 hours I don't eat, and for 8 hours I do eat. So that pretty much in that 16 hours is a lot time sleeping, or just a couple hours after I wake up and a couple hours before I go to bed. So I would say for the intermittent fasting part, in waiting a few hours after I wake up until I eat, I definitely did notice that I was still hungry, and I'm still kind of experiencing that, but it's definitely going away after kind of doing this for 1 week, which is nice because I don't think I would have enjoyed that lasting for a long time. But it really is only a couple hours after you wake up that I'm not eating, and I personally think that it's totally cool. My body's getting used to it. So that is also a factor that was coming into play with the diet that I'm following. So over the course of the first couple of days, I would say probably like the first 3 days, I was actually feeling pretty good about everything. I was having a lot of energy. Everything was going totally great, and the food that I was eating with the portions that I was making, which I would like to mention, ended up being a lot smaller than the portions that I used to be eating. Like, I could eat like a freaking whole container of like pasta and be totally fine. But no, that's not the lifestyle that I'm trying to live. So I definitely noticed that I was feeling rather full after everything that I was eating, and actually full for a longer period of time than I was used to, which was really nice, especially because I guess my brain didn't comprehend that you could totally eat smaller portions of things as long as there was enough nutrients and the right kinds of food in them that you would actually feel full. I realize that now. After those 3 days, I definitely did go into something that I think people refer to as like the keto crash. And basically it's just kind of like your body freaking out because it's like, oh my God, you just took all of this stuff away from me, and now you're replacing it with all of this new stuff, and I'm just gonna freak out about it. I can't really explain to you the scientific reasons as to why that happens, but basically what it feels like is for me anyways, I was getting a lot of like hot flashes, I guess. Like I was getting really hot and sweaty all the time, and I was like super exhausted, like my muscles were aching. I was just super tired. Even if I slept like a lot, like 10 hours of sleep, I would still feel absolutely exhausted. I was getting headaches. I was just super like uncomfortable, and also just emotionally not feeling too hot. Now, I was really worried the first day that this started happening to me, because I was like, oh my god, like what is this? I kind of like knew what it was because I'd read about it, but I was like, how long is this gonna last for? And luckily for me, it only lasted for a total of 2 days, which was like, thank God, because those 2 days I was also working. So it was just like trying to do your job while you're having like this crazy freaking body freak out. And so luckily that is over with now, and after those 2 days I'm feeling totally fine again, and everything is honestly going great. As for going over things like cravings and stuff like that, I definitely still think that I have cravings, and probably will for at least a couple of weeks, I'm assuming, for things just like bread and chocolate and just all of those kind of things. But I did actually find a little chart online, which I will show here, and it basically just says if you're craving this, then you should eat this. And that's been pretty helpful for me, honestly, because like obviously if you're craving chocolate, it doesn't mean your body needs chocolate, you know what I mean? So overall that has been helping me kind of with my like cravings and my struggles in that sense. So I just think it's really important to stay committed to the diet that you're following, and don't kind of just like go off and break the rules and go eat a hamburger or something like that, because that's just going to kind of, you know, destroy all the work that you've been putting into it. And I do believe that if after you kind of go through your initial keto crash, if you kind of go back into eating what you were eating before, your body will fall out of ketosis, and you'll probably have to do the process all over again, which does not really sound like a fun time to me. So now is probably maybe the reason why you're here, and that is for the actual recipes that I have been enjoying. So I'm going to be telling you guys about 3 different recipes that I have made over the past week that I think are going to definitely end up being a staple in my kind of eating routine, because for me, I like to find things that I really like and then keep them in my like eating schedule, if that makes sense. I've never been a person, honestly, that does a whole lot of cooking, or honestly really enjoyed doing a whole lot of cooking. It just kind of has never been something like that makes me like have a good time. I don't know, it stresses me out having to cook things, and if it doesn't turn out right, I wasted food, and you know, it's just never been an experience that I've necessarily wanted to put myself into, I guess you could say. But something that I find really cool about changing my diet is I have started to actually enjoy cooking a lot more, and I'm definitely being forced to cook a lot more, because basically when you're doing the keto diet, there's not really a whole lot of things, I guess, besides like eating fruit or nuts or just things that are already kind of prepared for you that you can eat without actually physically preparing them. So a lot of the things I do really just have to cook or bake, and it's been a lot of new experiences for me, but I'm honestly definitely enjoying it. And I think I definitely get really excited when the actual food is done and I eat it and it tastes good, and I'm like, wow, you made that, Sarah. Good for you. So the first food that I'm going to talk to you guys about is something that I think is super, super helpful and important when you're doing this diet, because it's like a no bread diet. So basically I actually purchased this set of cookbooks called Keto In 5, and so that's where I'm pulling all of these recipes from. So I'm definitely not taking any credit for the recipes here. I definitely did need help from someone who knows more about this than I do, because I don't really know that much. Like, I know what the internet tells me, and that's pretty much it. So the first recipe is going to be a breakfast or lunch, brunch, whatever suits your fancy. So the first recipe that I've made is basically just little breakfast sandwiches, so like 2 buns and some stuff on the inside. And one of the main things in this recipe is something called cloud buns. Now these are basically just like no bun buns, so you can use them to make little sandwiches, but it's not actually bread. So the best thing about these buns is that they only include 3 ingredients, which basically is eggs, cream cheese, and cream of tartar. Now for me, like, honestly, I had a really hard time finding cream of tartar in the grocery store, because I assumed like it was going to be in the baking aisle. It's not in the baking aisle, it's with the spices, for those of you who are possibly just as lost as I am. It's a white powder, it is not a cream. I don't know why it's called cream of tartar, but it's a powder. From what I understand, cream of tartar is basically just like a kind of replacement, I think, for baking soda or baking powder, because you can't necessarily have baking soda. You can have baking powder, but you can't have baking soda when you're using recipes for this diet. So I'm not going to actually be showing you guys how to make the recipes in this video. I will include all of the actual ingredients and the steps into making them, but I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about this stuff because it's just like super new to me and kind of super exciting to me, and I just wanted to share it with the world. So I will include the actual recipe on the screen now. So if you'd like to go ahead and take a screenshot of that, you can totally do that. So for this recipe, I do want to quickly mention that the most important thing that you make sure that you do when you're actually making the buns is when you're beating the egg whites, you really have to do it for like a really long time. The first time I did it, I didn't do it for long enough because I didn't understand what the recipe meant when it said to beat them until foamy. What it means is basically beat the crap out of them until they look like meringue. That was where I kind of messed up the first time. They didn't end up necessarily tasting bad, just not the texture that I would have ideally wanted. They pretty much ended up more like little flat pancakes than little fluffy buns. As for the nutritional facts within each cloud bun, it has 50 calories, 4 grams of fat, 2.5 grams of protein, and 0.7 grams of carbs, which is pretty low, which is nice because obviously you're trying to get under that kind of like 20 net carb thing, and these are 0.7 grams of regular carbs. So pretty much what I've been doing for my breakfast sandwiches is just taking 2 little cloud buns, putting kind of one nice little layer of mayonnaise on one, putting on some ham, some cheese, and some eggs, and then putting it together and putting it in my mouth. So I did take that specifically from another recipe in the Keto In 5 cookbook, and it was called the ham and egg cheese wich. Now for this, I did kind of adjust some of the things. Like it does say that you need 2 slices of pepper jack cheese. I personally just used cheddar cheese, and it said Black Forest ham. I used just regular ham slices. So this could probably alter like the actual nutritional facts of it, but overall this kind of singular sandwich is supposed to have 4 grams of net carbs. But overall for the nutritional facts for this, it's supposed to have 4 grams of net carbs and 44 grams of fat, which is great. So the next recipe that I'm going to show you guys is basically just something that I think you could totally do. Like I've been doing it for breakfast. You could probably do it as like a snack if you wanted, but you know, it's really up to you. I personally find it very filling, so I just do it for breakfast, and that is blueberry coconut muffins. Now for this recipe, I personally replaced the blueberries with blackberries because I didn't have blueberries, but it's cool. I think you can really just put in whatever berry you want and it's probably fine. So I found this kind of cool because it was my first time baking with coconut flour and coconut oil. I'd honestly never used either of those things in any recipe, literally ever, not once. So it was a totally new experience for me, and honestly it ended up really good the first time, which I'm like super proud of. So like all of the recipes that I'm talking about, this includes 5 ingredients. Some of them include less, most of them include 5, which is coconut flour, baking powder, coconut oil, egg, and blueberries, in my case blackberries. So I will go ahead and include the recipe now. So if you'd like to go ahead and take a screenshot of that, you can go right ahead. So this recipe in particular does give ingredients just for one singular muffin, although I would like to say I do think it depends on the size of the actual muffin tin, whatever that you're using, because I ended up getting 2 muffins out of the ingredients just for one muffin, and I think that was because my pan had like really small muffin spots, you know what I mean? So that was pretty cool that I ended up with double the amount of muffin for what I thought would be one. So obviously it ends up being either 1 big muffin or 2 small muffins, you decide. So for this, I just kind of multiplied the ingredients so that I could make like 12 muffins, because I didn't really want to just like take all that time to make like 1 muffin. That seems just like a waste of time to me. But I made a whole bunch of muffins. They turned out amazing, and like the recipe was so on point. It said like do it for 18 minutes, and at 18 minutes they were perfect. So I'm pretty excited about that. When you first eat them, if you haven't had something like this before, they're definitely very heavy, I guess you could say, and I think that has a lot to do with the coconut oil. Something that I experienced when I was baking with coconut oil, because I'd never used it before, is that it is very temperature sensitive. So because it kind of starts off more as a solid in the container, you do have to kind of heat it up to get it to be a liquid so that you can bake with it. But then when you're baking with it, it solidifies again, and it's just like a whole experience. And I'm definitely gonna have to just play with that like a little bit more to kind of figure out how to make it work properly. But basically it worked out perfectly fine in my opinion. The muffins are absolutely delicious. So the great thing is that I did end up with 12 muffins, and because I usually have 2 of them for breakfast, that leaves me with 6 days worth of muffins, which is pretty much I think like the longest you should probably eat muffins for, like if they're just sitting in a Tupperware kind of thing. So I've just popped them in the microwave for like 15 seconds to get them a little bit warm, and they're absolutely delicious. Perfect way to start your day, and I highly recommend it. So for the muffins, you do have 5 grams of net carbs and 33 grams of fat. So the next and last recipe is something that I think could be done for lunch or dinner. I've been doing it specifically for dinner, and that is coconut chicken curry. This is also my first time making curry, like just making it actually, and not buying like curry sauce and just, you know, putting it on stuff. So this was really exciting for me, and honestly I think this is one of the things that I like weirdly felt the most proud of. I know I've always enjoyed eating chicken curry, but most of the time I kind of just already have it prepared, like I get it at like a restaurant, or I buy it in like those like pre-made things at the grocery store, and then you just heat it up at home. So this was my first time actually making it myself, and it turned out so good. So this again does have just 5 ingredients, which include white onion, chicken thighs. I use chicken breast. I looked it up. It seems like it's like perfectly fine to do chicken breast. I think chicken thighs are better because they have more fat, but like I only had chicken breast at home, so that's what I used. Coconut milk, green beans, and curry powder. The best thing about this recipe is that the ingredients already make for 4 servings. Now I didn't have like all the right measurements and stuff, so mine only ended up making 3 servings, but that's totally fine because like I don't know if I was down to eat like chicken curry for 4 days in a row, but 3 days in a row was totally fine. I don't know, it was delicious, so maybe I could have done 4, but I definitely should have just added more ingredients to make more servings. That was my bad. This recipe is just honestly ended up being super easy. It just is a lot of like cutting certain things and then leaving certain things in a pan to simmer, and just that's pretty much like the gist of what you have to do for this, which is really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and include the recipe now, so you can go ahead and take a screenshot if you'd like. As for the nutritional facts for the coconut chicken curry, you do have 16 grams of fat and 5 grams of net carbs, which is amazing. So what's actually really cool is if you just had like these 3 recipes that I'm talking about today, like you had the muffins for breakfast, you had the sandwich for lunch, and you had the chicken curry for dinner, you would actually only be at a total of 14 carbs, net carbs specifically, which is amazing. Like 14 when you're supposed to be doing 20 or less is so good. And if you want to include like a little healthy snack in there, you totally have room to do that. I have also been, of course, experimenting with other recipes outside of these 3 things that if you guys are interested, I can totally make another video discussing those recipes. So those are the 3 recipes that I wanted to discuss with you guys today, and I think that it's really exciting that I'm like trying new things, and hopefully this inspires you guys to try new things. And even if you're not following this diet in particular, like go ahead and try these recipes because they're delicious. I think I want to finish this video off on kind of a high inspiring note, and that would just be like with my personal progress with this diet, I guess. Like I'm partially doing it for just to be healthier, and partially doing it to kind of like lose a couple pounds, to be honest. And I have already lost 4 pounds in 7 days, which is like, I know it's not a lot, like it's 4 pounds, but if you think about it, if you lose 4 pounds every week, you will lose a total of 16 pounds in 1 month, which is pretty good in my opinion. I don't really want to lose that much. Like I literally have like maybe a couple more pounds that I want to lose to reach like my weight goal, and it's happening. It's all happening. Good things are coming to me because I'm doing good things in the world. So I'm really happy with how everything is going with this first week of this diet, and I really do hope that I'm like able to commit to it like longer term so that I can see better results over time and just feel healthier and happier about my life. This video is just really just kind of, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's new and happening in my life and something that I'm feeling really excited and positive about, and hopefully you guys are getting the positive vibes. I am sending them to you. And if you did enjoy this video, then you can go ahead and leave a big thumbs up. And if you guys have any video requests, if you guys are interested in me maybe posting kind of another progress video maybe in a month, in a couple of months, just to kind of see where I'm at in the future, or if perhaps you guys want to see more recipe ideas, I can totally do that for you as well. Just leave all of your stuff in the comments down below. Otherwise, if you guys want to just say hello, I do love chatting with you guys, so you can leave that down below as well. If you'd like, you can definitely go ahead and subscribe. There's no pressure, but if you want, you can do it. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!